This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices slipped more than 1% on Monday as investors adopted caution ahead of a U.S. Federal Reserve policy meeting and China's manufacturing data due this week, offsetting support from tension in the Middle East. Brent crude futures dropped 1%, or 97 cents, to $89.51 a barrel by 0718 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 1.3%, or $1.13, at $84.41 a barrel. Despite an escalation in the Hamas-Israel war, the ground invasion was widely expected, said CMC Markets analyst Tina Tang.
Britain's oil and gas regulator, the North Sea Transition Authority, NSTA, on Monday awarded 27 new hydrocarbon exploration licenses, even as climate activists criticized the government for allowing fresh drilling. The licensing round, the first of its kind since 2019, was launched around a year ago and received 115 applications from 76 companies. Some North Sea producers shunned the round after Britain introduced a windfall tax on the sector. Among the successful bidders to drill for new oil and gas in the British North Sea are Shell with the most licenses, Equinor, DNO, Aker BP, Ithaca, Total Energies and BP.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
China has set a minimum size for new oil refineries and will ban small crude processors that claim to be chemicals or bitumen producers under a plan to limit total capacity at 1 billion metric tons, or 20 million barrels per day, by 2025. Following are key details on China's steps, outlined this week, to rein in a refining industry that recently surpassed the United States to become the world's largest. The overall capacity cap, first unveiled in October 2021 as part of a plan to reach peak carbon emissions by 2030, is aimed at curbing excessive domestic refinery production and supply overhang to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
The Argentine government and oil companies on Saturday said fuel shipments are starting to arrive that in coming days should ease a shortage after a spike in demand caused long lines at gas stations. 10 fuel shipments imported by the government are beginning to arrive, although distribution may take a few days, Energy Secretary Flavia Royan told a local radio station, noting that there would be no abrupt price increases. Royan attributed the shortage in part to tourism during a long weekend and rumors of possible price increases following the October 22 presidential election. The runoff vote is November 19. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Gold prices held above the key $2,000 level on Monday, buoyed by safe haven demand from an escalating Middle East conflict, while investors were on a cautious watch ahead of the U.S. Federal Reserve's policy meeting later this week. Spot gold was down 0.2% at $2,001.37 per ounce by 0535 GMT. U.S. gold futures climbed 0.6% to $2,011.20. Israeli airstrikes hit areas near Gaza City's Shifa and Al-Quds hospitals early on Monday, and Palestinian militants clashed with Israeli forces in a border area east of the city of Khan Yunis, in the enclave's south, Palestinian media reported.
Most non-ferrous metals prices climbed on Monday as stimulus measures from top consumer China boosted sentiment, with low inventories and solid demand further supporting copper prices. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange was up 0.1% at $8,104 per metric ton by 0754 GMT. The most traded December copper contract on the Shanghai Futures Exchange advanced 1.1% to 67,320 yuan, $9,198.98 a ton.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
The United States has for the first time begun buying Japanese seafood to supply its military there, a response to China's ban on such products imposed after Tokyo released treated water from its crippled Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. Unveiling the initiative in a Reuters interview on Monday, U.S. Ambassador to Japan Rahm Emanuel said Washington should also look more broadly into how it could help offset China's ban that he said was part of its economic wars. China, which had been the biggest buyer of Japanese seafood, says its ban is due to food safety fears.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.